All right, we wanted to take some time to talk about how the president's family really plays a part in their time in office.
Yeah, specifically the role of the First Lady here and the role she plays in the administration.
Yeah, joining us live via Zoom is Anita McBride. She served as Chief of Staff to First Lady Laura Bush from 2005 to 2009, and now she directs the First Ladies Initiative at American University. Anita, thank you for being so flexible with us this afternoon.
We're all on Trump time
right?
now. We have to be flexible today.
So you know all about First family dynamics, and as we mentioned, you were Chief of Staff to Laura Bush. You know what it's like when the first twins moved into the White House. There's the swirl of activity happening right now in anticipation of President Trump, First Lady Melania, their family and guests at the White House. Tell us a bit more in this frenetic day about what's happening behind the scenes before they get back.
Well, I'm sure the 95 plus people at the White House resident staff are just about done with the finishing touches for when the new first family will come. They have actually a little bit extra time now than they've had in the past because things are delayed. So that might give them a moment to stagger and have their own meals and be ready. But the White House, you know, from the minute that the first couples and the president-elect and Vice President-elect and their families leave this morning, all that activity starts. The moving trucks are positioned for taking the Biden's things away and for bringing the Trump's things in. And everybody on that team is given an assignment to know what their job is, to have the house ready and meals prepared, flowers in the rooms, guest beds made up if people are going to be staying overnight, inaugural clothes hung up in the closets. Everything is documented and ready for them to go.
All right, Anita, let's talk about the role of the First Lady. We know this will be Melania Trump's second time in this role, so she knows kind of what to expect at this point. And she also talked about making this documentary or movie to capture this moment and moving back into the White House. It reminds me of Jackie Kennedy to a certain degree. What can we expect from her this time? More of what we're seeing here?
Well, I think you're seeing a First Lady who, right, with the familiarity that she knows about the White House and coming back, she knows what life is like there. They only were there 4 years ago, so the majority of the resident staff are still the same. So I think with the documentary is a way for her to get her message out in her words. You know, in her first foray at this, her 4 years when she came in 2017 were very difficult and really faced a bit of a critical, if not hostile, environment. And so now, and she tried to get her message out, even when she spoke differently than what her husband was saying, which was quite bold in some ways. But doing the documentary, doing the book is a way for her, in her words, to let the American people know who she is. And I think that will be, in the book especially, where she shared images that no one had seen before. You begin to peel back the layers and you see the human side of someone and not just this political role that now she's playing in our country.
Well, we know First Ladies really have this unique opportunity to champion issues in the role. I remember specifically Melania's Be Best, you know, where she was really putting children on a pedestal, trying to help them grow in specific ways. What will we see her champion over the next 4 years? Any idea?
Sure. Well, I think in some interviews that she has done in the last month since the election and talked about that, she said, you know, when she unveiled Be Best, she had a very difficult time getting partners and supporters and corporate and nonprofits to work with her, even though it was an issue, as you say, for children that was important, the healthy use of social media. So I think she's wanting to revive that. She's expanded it by working with foster children as well in the years that she's been out of the White House. So I think she's hoping that she'll get a better reception for people to work with her and actually try and make a difference on an issue that I think we all can agree on is important. Anything we can do for our children to have healthier lives emotionally and physically is important.
Anita, you've talked quite a bit about this important role that doesn't pay a thing. And First Ladies, you know, they can really make a huge impact as we go back through the years. But most people may be surprised to know that there's actually no description for the job. They don't have to do
No,
a
you're
thing.
absolutely right. And in fact, today we saw the president take the oath of office. The oath in our Constitution for president is 35 words long. It's very short, but there's not even one word about the First Lady and what their role is. And what does that do? That gives you a platform that's enormously flexible. No one's telling you what you have to do. You get to pick and choose. And First Ladies through history have been very successful if they bring issues that they care about, if their husband supports them in the role. I mean, there's a level of authenticity if you have some background and experience in an issue. But what is unique about the position, every problem in the world comes to the desk of the American president. They can't do everything, but a First Lady can pick a few things that they can shine a light on and hopefully move the needle.
Yeah, and how do you balance that as a First Lady, Anita? We know that sometimes, as you mentioned before, they have to sort of separate their views from their husbands and what they can say publicly.
Well, what's interesting about Mrs. Trump is she's already told us before coming back, I don't always agree with my husband. And in fact, in her first term as First Lady, there were often times where she did speak differently. During COVID, when President Trump said you don't have to wear a mask, you don't have to social distance, Mrs. Trump went on the North Portico, front door of the White House, and recorded a PSA for the Centers for Disease Control telling people to wear masks and to social distance. So she's shown a comfort level to speak a little separately or differently from what her husband is saying. So I would imagine she'll continue to be true to herself and do the same. She says she's not defined by anybody else's expectations of her, but only those for herself.
Well, she really had that energy today at the inauguration when dressed in all black.
The
hat, right? She just kind of had this, confidence, this air about her. And I wanted to touch on the theme of doing things her way, because the First Lady is going to actually split her time between, the White House, Trump Tower in Manhattan, and Mar-a-Lago in Florida. In past administrations, the Obamas, the Bidens, we'd frequently see First Ladies out in the local D.C. community. Do you think it might be a little bit different this time with Melania?
Well, I think, again, the familiarity of coming to the White House, so she knows what she's getting into, so she's more comfortable there. And I think that remains to be seen, because she did say she will be splitting her time and be where she needs to be when she needs to be there. We just don't know what that's going to look like yet. So I think we'll just have to wait and see. But I do think we can feel confident, all of us here can feel confident and say this, that she will determine this for herself.
In our country's history, First Ladies have had different priorities. They've all bring their own experiences to the role. Is there something you think that connects all of them, regardless of political leaning?
Absolutely. And what connects all of them is actually what they are all reviewing right now is an honor to our troops. By being the wife of the commander-in-chief, you are the nation's first military spouse. And from Martha Washington to today, to Melania Trump, support for our military and our veterans is something that connects all of them. They all have done it, through tragedies, through world wars, through peacetime, supporting military families, supporting wounded veterans, grieving with families who have lost someone in the military. That is a connection point for sure.
All right, Anita, so as we approach Melania's second term here, and you touched on this a bit earlier, you talked about her being misunderstood. We have the book now. We also have the documentary. So how do you rebrand yourself in such a role?
I know that's a really terrific question. I think, part of it is being sure of yourself and confident in who you are. And she does really demonstrate that. And I think having a good team around you that helps to amplify your message, having more accessibility to the media, if they're willing to interview her and take time with her. As you remember, here we have a woman who was a professional model, and not one magazine had her on their cover. I mean, that was really unheard of. So I think for her to get her message out, she needs partners, and we'll have to wait and see if she faces a less hostile environment.
So much to watch for in these next 4 years. Anita, thank you for contextualizing all of this for us, and I know we'll be reaching back to talk to you again soon. So thank you for your time.
I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for
Thank
reporting
you.
on this today.
It was lovely.